I'm Apostle Justice Dlamini. Ngitalwa khona leSwatini nami ngitalwa emphakathi and uNkulunkulu wangendela umusa wase uyangibita and ngase ngiba ngumholi welibandla lokuthiwa i-Worship Center Church for All People leline headquarters lapha eMbabane eSwatini. Liphindze libe nema-branch eSouth Africa. Kusho ukuthi i-role nje mina lengiyidlalako it's the spiritual and moral leadership from the perspective yelive la Jehovah, and letinto letiti encompassa, the moral and socio-economics of people's lives. So in a nutshell nje ngimi loyo, and ngicabanga ukuthi labanenge lesinabo kule platform bayade ukuthi ngibani Apostle Justice.
Hayi, siyabonga Apostle ukuthi usisharele that information about yourself. So le nto awuthanda kusho nje ngingakacala ukubuta imibuto ukuthi some of the questions and ngidawubuta nje as quick as I can so that I can give skhathi to those on the floor khona batokhona ukubuta. Yes, so angivele ngene khona. So mfundisi nje umbuto wecala lesifise kwadi ukuthi nasithi there's the church that is advising the king. What exactly is the role of the church in advising the king? Kahle kahle sifuna kwathi ukuthi what exactly do they do? Nakuthiwa nje the church is advising the king, or there's a church body that is advising the king.
Kukabili lapho to the diaspora members ngoba kunalama church bodies, which is the League of Churches, the Conference of Churches, and the Council of Churches. That's one cluster. And then bese kuba nale Swazi National Council, which is the official national advisory body of the king. Lephinze nayo even individuals who are members of the religious bodies. Ngiko la kufike, I don't know your question nje utaba nenkingana lokuthi ubuta from both clusters noma ubuta generally specifically about the church bodies.
Asengubute generally mhlambe wena mfundisi utase uyasihlephelela ukuthi from each body this is what is expected, and from each body, then from that body this is what is expected in terms of advising the king.
Okay, though I may not be fully privy to the constitutions that govern each religious body, namely, the Council of Churches, the League of Churches, and the Conference of Churches, predominantly or specifically, these bodies uthola ukuthi avama kunaka tindzaba letiphatselene nje netenkolo nemakholwa la affiliated to the belief structures of those religious bodies. Good loku spelled out good as Conference of Churches, Council of Churches, League of Churches, vele you are expected to be always advising the king. But if we now take it from the Bible perspective, because mina ngicela ukuthi yathi diaspora ukuthi I'm talking as a servant of God, I'm not a politician at all. As a servant of God, right through Bible history, the kings in the Bible, if you guys can take time and study the Old Testament, you'll discover that all the kings in the Bible were advised and guided by servants of God. Right through Bible history. So what does this say to us? Because the Bible standard does not change with time. It should be natural. The three religious church bodies in Swaziland should be playing a very key role in ensuring the king and government are continuously advised, on spiritual and socio-economic issues, which unfortunately is not happening. Now, maybe they will say, in our constitution, there's nothing that is spelled out to say we must, step up and, sort of involve ourselves at inventles at iphatselene nenhlala kahle nepolitiki yebantu baseswatini. But now if I jump and go to the other side, lapha kunanaba specifically they've been appointed but kwaba spelled out ukuthi they are in the King's Advisory Council. Now laba bishop nabafundisi that are in that Swazi National Council, really it should be a given ukuthi function kwabo should be like the way Daniel functioned in Babylon.
Mm,
Because in Babylon Daniel was ensuring ukuthi inkosi iyatshelwa ngalokuthi imiso delivi laNkulunkulu ngoba inhlala kahle yebantu it's part and parcel of the Bible order. Uyabona kuholeka kahle kwebantu is part and parcel of the Bible order. Injustice iBhayibheli vele it frowns at it.
mm,
So uma ke kunebantu labala ku-advisory council but ungeva lutho ngabo, you only heard about them naba-announcwa, uyabona, and
mm,
uyawuphindze ugcine kuva ngabo the days ekufakwa lenchi group. We've had bishops and reverends ba-featurisha kule advisory council from decades back. And mina I feel vele ukuthi behlulekile loku-representa libhayibheli nekurepresenta uNkulunkulu nemaswati nje at large from the spiritual and religious perspective.
mm. Mm. Thank you so much for that, Mfundisi, because at this point, vele majority of the nation does feel like they have been hugely neglected by the church, especially nasiva nje ukuthi there is actually an advisory board from the church that is sent out to the king to actually help the king to lead the nation. And labo sesiyade ukuthi they have, we could say, failed in doing so. But ngifisa ukubuda nyalo ukuthi you mentioned the bodies emasombo, the Conference of Churches, the League of Churches, and the Council of Churches, which you stated ukuthi imisebenzi yabo is ku-constitution yakho kude kwekuthi kubhaliwe ukuthi this is what they must do when it comes to the king. But just ukubuda nje Mfundisi kwekuthi in terms of everything that has happened, wena ngekubuka kwakho, what can these bodies lalamanye, not the ones that are for the king, the ones that are there ngasho ukuthi for the people, what can they do from here on? And the silence also has been quite deafening from some of those bodies. Kubangelwa yini lokho, the silence, and yes, the silence, and also what can be done moving forward.
Lolokubanga logo to the panel list that I hear. Kubangwa ukuthi Eswatini kunale spirit se fear to speak what is right. Angisathi lokho sisiqhamukapi because ordinarily and naturally kumele ukuthi uma kuba nema issues that are affecting the lives of the people who are members of these bodies, these religious bodies, they should really care. They should rise. They should, come to the show. Basho ukuthi, hey, lapha nalapha nalapha, we feel ukuthi thina bathambe kanje. But akwendeki. And you just fail to understand ukuthi akwendeki leni. Because ngiyakhumbula nga-2005 when i-constitution yaseswatini craftwa, kwaba ne-debate around ukuthi should Christianity be the official religion of Swaziland. Uyabona nje noma cha, leyo debate leyo yenda abafundisi bevakala. I'm one of those who were also vocal. So taking from that, uma sekuqhamuke ma-issues that affect the socio-economic wellness of the people, predominantly labantu laba bangemakholwa, and vele they are affiliated to these bodies. The leaders, of the League of Churches, the Conference of Churches, and the Council of Churches. I mean, they are expected, to jump and say something. And unfortunately, they are not saying anything. So, mina nje personally, that has really greatly disturbed me. Ukuthi why? Uma abantu lesibaholako sibona ukuthi impilo
No, kuyevakala mfundisi, kuyevakala.
So it's
And
an error on the ground. Mistake lekhona lengicabanga ukuthi maybe such, platforms and such voicings will cause someone somewhere ukuthi, rise from their laurels and do what they're supposed to do.
thank you for that, Mfundis. And you said ukuthi lama bodies lawa kuna there's individual churches that are bese attach corner, and uyasho ukuthi such conversations might propel people from wherever they are to rise and speak. Lengisacela ukubuta nje Apostle ukuthi ke at the individual level la,
Mm,
because this is a lesicatha ukukhuluma ngabo ma bodies, but ke
mm.
nasesiphuma la kulama bodies, taking it down to the individual level, to the churches, to the pastors down on the ground lapho attenda khona. What responsibility or responsibilities rather should should our pastors have in terms of assisting us as we try to move towards the new, as we try to call for the new dispensation in Swaziland?
Well, I will speak generally. Guti, like Nganga mentioned earlier on, the pastors that you are referring to, including myself, sihola bantu laba affectwa ngilama current socio-economic conditions that are on the ground. For instance, they are in our churches, they are jobless. They are in our churches, they can't readily get scholarship to go to university or college fully funded. They are in our churches, they can't get social grants, like on time, reasonable social grants. And Labanles Baholago, they are affected. And because siyabahola, it becomes an indictment lakithi ukuthi siphindze sibe voice. If you can remember my audio that I circulated,
Mm,
ngakota Proverbs 31 verse number 8, where the Bible says, speak for those who cannot speak for themselves.
mm,
Speak, for the social justice of those whose lives are not getting fair and just treatment, socio-economical. It says speak. So I believe, Gutsi, even as individual churches, each pastor must take it upon himself, Gutsi, lenye mandate yake is to be a voice for the people where it
mm,
matters, which unfortunately is not happening. So here, once again, we are here to sound the alarm, to make the wake up call. Gutsi, pastors, speak everything that concerns the wellness of the people you lead. You cannot be there preaching the word of God, prophesying on a person, lo confused, lo frustrated, ukuthi akanamsebenzi and there's no hope in
mm,
sight. Ulambile, uyabona.
mm,
Cannot go to school and unema-dreams aqhubeka esikolweni because your message will bounce, it will fall on deaf ears because you are preaching to someone low frustrated and there's no one speaking to his or her frustration.
mm, mm.
So
That
individual churches have a responsibility. They've got to be a voice. They've got to sound their own voice behind the voices of these MPs that have started speaking, in a different way, La akajwayeleke Eswatini, which of course received a lot of resistance.
yeah, that is true. That is true, Mfundisi. And ngiyajabula lokhu you speaking about how, excuse me, the pastors have to become, excuse me, the voice of the people, and it's very disheartening and ukuqeda emandla lokuthi the pastors, I think from the conversation that we've had, we can say that Bafundis Befu have actually failed us up till now. And what makes the situation worse is that in as much as they have failed us, siyaqhubeka still Tina calling for the new dispensation, to the point whereby as Emaswati were even starting to singasho ukuthi our eyes have been opened. We are starting to engage in political dialogues. We are starting to read things. We're starting to see things. And one of the things that had been covered from us for sorry guys, the pastor just disappeared. So let me try and invite him again. My apologies. Uthi sesilahlekeleni la. If Lesombo has failed us, and it has failed us at a very critical time. Lapho khona eMaswati are having a mind shift and they're starting to have their eyes opened to things. We're starting to engage politically and and we've been seeing political parties that were banned in Swaziland for the longest time. So lo azama kuyiqala le topic lena azama ukusikhulumisa, and nyalo sesifike to a point whereby we see ukuthi okay sesifike esikhathini sokuthi we want some type of change. We need something. Let us make it to where we want to go. So just to ask you, Mfundisi, ukuthi wena Nkosi, what is your take on a multi-party dispensation? Do you feel that as Swazis we would be more successful khona lapho? What do you think about that?
Thank you so much. Mina, my take personally was to sort of support the approach le initiate lama MPs lawa lamathatu to first and foremost for starters sibe ne government that is accountable to the people by way of moving from an appointed prime minister to a prime minister that has been chosen by the people, and continue to have, our monarch in place, but hulumende lona full control yema resources, hulumende lo account kubantu, because we can see ukuthi the way as things are going currently, lo hulumende akakhoni satisfy, the needs of the people which are on the ground. So mine, to answer you direct on that, bengathi for starters asesiqale siphushe leyo kwendeke leyo before we move, to a complete, change, to a multi-party state, because I believe, I may be wrong, we are not ready for that.
Okay, Mfundisi. My next question now, it's something that you had actually touched on earlier. It's just that we, as Gabe sesingena kiyo kakhulu indzaba ye constitution, or rather, okay, let me just put the question like this. We would see, as a Maswati, all we have ever known is Christianity, and we had found ourselves ukuthi si embrace yona and yona yofa, and now sesikhathini la sibona khona ukuthi so many rights have been infringed by the actual constitution yala kangwane, and such rights include my rights to freedom of expression. Excuse me. Currently, we have some political exiles, we have Muslims, we have LGBTQ community, which have their rights infringed. That are part of our community. So, in terms of that, and looking at the new Swaziland that we're trying to get to, and looking at the constitution of the country, which this is what it embraces, and that things it just hasn't accepted yet. Moving towards the new dispensation, how do you think we can actually combat that, and how can we exist in harmony with all these other groups?
The constitution needs to be changed so that it sort of addresses these issues, these matters that you are touching. But changing a constitution of a country is not as easy as many of us may think. That's why the starting point, ngila ekuthenini, the religious bodies, the church, they need to sort of bahlangane, to be one voice. The different formations, including yourselves, we need to structure ourselves, organize ourselves so that we become a voice that matters, a voice that cannot be ignored. Because at the moment, the system is able to take advantage and sort of silence every voice that sort of sounds, because nabathi bayabuka bathola ukuthi it's a voice but alina structure less organized behind it, uyabona. So ngiko lolo kwenta siluze isikhathi ukuthi what we are speaking, including lama rights that are being infringed, and nalokuthi nje lo mnotho wakangwane awudistributwa fairly and evenly. But good lama well organized voices to bring that sort of desired change. So ibuyele ekuthenini all these who have been stirred up ukuthi bafuna kukhuluma and batenda ema-formations lathi abathi organize into well organized structures, structures that are represented by eligible and capable individuals. Ungivile ngimention ukuthi we are not ready for multi-party, because nangathiwa nje nyalo asengikhulume nje into le blunt ngithi okay inkosi yaduba, it's okay, thathani. Okay. Who can take? Who can take? You see, so we still have a lot of work to do on the ground in terms of organizing ourselves, empowering ourselves, and constituting ourselves in such a way that we become a voice that cannot be ignored anymore.
Thank you so much for that.
I hope you are getting my point. Lokuthi we need to organize ourselves and become a well structured voice of change.
Ngiyakuva mfundisi, ngiyakuva. So are you saying that also in these groups that lala khona that are not being heard, they also need to follow the same structure where they need to organize themselves and speak for themselves?
I mean, I can tell you a very embarrassing scenario where there was a big march that was organized, I think about 3 weeks ago, something, on a Friday. I coincided with Spire. Were you following those events?
Yes, I followed those events.
I mean, that big match, it was just announced as a big match, but you could not spell out and define and ascertain ukuthi i-organizwa ngubani as what. Uyabona? Like i-Pew Demo, ingwane liberation, yini, is it a worker strike, ithukoswa, uyabona? Ngeke size si-achieve anything uma sinhlakanhlaka kanje. Mina I believe ukuthi into le khona kuba ne-impact must first be organized on the drawing boards. Structure sibe well defined. The individuals who are leading that structure babe bantu who can be vouched for ukuthi really they can represent this structure because they are capable, they are competent, they are whatever. So it was a confusion. It was easy for the police to just scatter that thing because, I mean, people were overhead saying, "Where are our leaders? Who were the leaders anyway?" You see, akufuneki. I think there's a lot of work that we need to do because wonke umsindo lobangwako kumele ube ngumsindo lo well organized, well structured, because you can make noise for the sake of making noise, but if you don't
That's
have a
true.
well organized, recognized structure, who is going to pay attention to you?
That's true. That's true. Just the last question before I give everything to the floor. You've touched so much on leadership. Trisha, throughout our talk, you've been talking about how leadership is needed and ayiko. And we've seen how leadership has failed us before, and now we're trying to move towards something new, and we're struggling with leadership. And mina lengafuna ukuva mfundisi ukuthi as we move towards the new dispensation, how do you think Emaswati can prevent this issue of being failed by leaders again, whether kusesompheni or it's in a multi-party state or it's in a monarchical democracy? How can we prevent this from happening again as Emaswati?
We should demand to be led. Into ekuqala nje kumele sidemandele ukuthi sicela kuholwa, uyabona, ngendlela lengiyo, le fully accountable, le shintsha timpilo tethu continuously, uyabona, lene clear direction and vision at national level, uyabona. Angithi nyalo nje bantu bayakhala ukuthi they are not satisfied, I mean, with regards to how the country is being led. And lologu triggerishe lokhala, it is because if you've got a leadership that does not address the suffering, the plight of the people, less so evident to everyone, it becomes a problem. So, because leadership at national level is wanting, obviously it will be wanting, down the line, down the streams. I mean, leadership will be wanting in church, leadership will be wanting in the educational sector, leadership will be wanting in government, because, I mean, it starts from the top and goes down. So Eswatini kunale deficiency, kunale angathi ngayichaza ngithi it's a serious leadership deficiency and void. Lese iholele nekuthi sekuyi culture lensha nalok ignore the voices of those who are being led, which is terrible. Where we are now, it is terrible because bantu bagcine ba-protesta nangekuprotesta ungaboni baholwa ngibani, bagcina babulewe badutshuliwe, akwaziwazi labadutshuliwe beba-under who, beba-mobilizwe ngibani, uyayibona. The leadership void is so serious in our country.
Thank you so much for that. Because Nyalo, we are going to give the mic to the floor. And before we start, guys, please, 2 minutes per speaker, 2 minutes only. And first, okay, I'll have one person ask Nyalo, and then hopefully my team member Utabasa connectile to ask questions from the hashtag. We're going to take 2 questions from here and 1 question from the hashtag. So yeah, ngidawuqala ngaSiphesihle. Ngidawuqala ngaSiphesihle ngilandzele ngamncedisi. So Leo, those are questions for you, Mfundisi. So would you like to take 1 question at a time and answer it, or ufuna kwathatha onke and then answer?
Yeah, I think ngawathatha onke ngiwaphendule sitoseva isikhathi.
Okay. Siphesihle, please go first. Siphesihle? Mncedisi?
Oh, okay. Ngiyabonga kakhulu Kompete. Ngibingelele lapha kumpostoli. Impostoli ngiyakuzwa ukhuluma impela about indaba ye-leadership. Mina i-concern yami la ngoba vele uma ubuka as the church kunako lokuthi vele libandla lisephasi. Ngabe ku-possible kangakanani ukuthi kumpostoli akhona mhlambe kumobilizer labanye bafundisi that have laba kwi-same understanding as his understanding, at least ngoba vele bafundisi ba-accommodator politicians and non-politicians, at least bakhona kuyithwala lento spiritual, because vele siyathi le nto leyo lapha eSwatini nasebukhosini vele spiritual ikakhulukazi. Ukuthi akhona mhlawumbe mobilize and give the full support spiritually by means of mhlampe imithandazo. I'm just making an example ukuthi ku-possible yini ukuthi umpostoli angasi assista kanjalo. Bese sekuba i-comment ke leleke about indzaba leadership. Kulikhona kuba ne-structure lezi organized lapha eSwatini kule lona kule forum lesinayo or kulama means e-democracy lesiwazamako njengamanje ngesizathu ukuthi kunanaya i-1973 decree which is still banned. So kulikhuni ke manje ukuthi structure sima kanjani lesimako ngoba kusho ukuthi structure kufanele sime through inkundla system which was lebekuzanywa ukuthi akhona kwenteke but kwagcina nakhona ke sekumisiwe ke sekuvinjwa yasi. So I think lapho endzabeni ye leadership sisane challenge vele but ke lokho kubita kulungiseke na into naya ye 1973 decree. Ngiyabonga.
Okay, thank you, Mncedisi. We are waiting for Bonkosi Sindla. Bonkosi, are you there? Bonkosi, please, your question, please. Bonkosi. Hayi, Bonkosi ngathi asivani naye. So umfundisi ngicela over uphendula leya Mncedisi while I try to get another speaker to come on.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu our host. Thank you so much Mncedisi for your questions. Umbuzo wakho uqala uthi mina ngiprepared kanganani to mobilize my colleagues the religious pastors ukuthi sibe liphimbo leli effective in the current situation. I am ready, I'm willing, and I've already done efforts in the past ukuthi sibafundise sihlangane sibe livilinye, and I'll continue doing that because I feel and I'm persuaded ukuthi vele it's a responsibility we cannot run away from because sihola abantu who are affected by the current status quo on the ground. So that I can do, that I will try by all means to do. And then the second thing Loishito ngilenza ba ukuthi lokuthi ningabi nema structures, these formations are for change angabi nema structures la organized so that they become a powerful voice. Angivumi angivumi ngeligama lekuthi the current inkundla system Ncedisi utawukhumbula ukuthi nakhona ukuthi inkundla nje tati designelwe ukuthi ti represent noma ti address ema-needs abantu on the ground. Sikubona ngani lokho? Kuba ngilabantu labakhetha abantu labawubamelela ephalamende. Lokusho ukuthi for starters liphimbo noma i-movement lokumele ibe strong ngile movement yalama MPs ngoba amelele bantu on the ground. MP amunye uthola ukuthi urepresent 6, 7, 8 constituencies lanemi ma-families bantu labanenge. Nami nje ungibona ngila ngumfundisi ngina MP wami lokumele singawe yangikhulumela uyabona ngina chief wami ngina MP wami bonke labantu bahola laba but abasendeli lenzo lokumele singabasendela yona ngoba phela imandate yabo is to ensure ukuthi i-socio economic wellness yethu vele is never compromised at any given point in time. So yathi yona ayinankinga uma ngabe sekulethwe izinto lapha sekuthiwa ucelwa kushintshwe lokhu nalokhu nalokhu, as long as kuda ngalama formal structures la khona yakhuluma ukuthi le nto kumele icala ithi mobilize kuphi, lethi inkundleni bathi ithathe labo MP bathathe kulama constituents abo ukuthi bantu bakhala nganaku nanaku nanaku, bese befika eParliament bona, I mean 59 of them, 59, can you imagine? And talk with one voice ukuthi sikhala nge-education, sikhala nge-poverty, sikhala nge-lack of employment, babe livile lingabinzi, uyabona. If that was happening, angicabangi ukuthi ngasikhona la sikhona khona manje. Befike eParliament agadze nje 5 years wakhe ukuthi utawuphela nini, agadze ukuthi yini lama imathuba langawathola ukuthi iphakamisa, bese uyakhohlwa le electorate lengiyona imthumile ukuthi hambe yosirepresenta le. Mina my take mncedisi ukuthi where we are, because kutawuba lichi vele as long as kunale 73 decree levala multi party, asesi maximize sisebenzise the current structure salama MPs, uyabona, because those people are the voice of everyone in the country. Can you imagine if they can give due diligence to their assignment and mandate? So much can change.
Thank you so much, Ncegu. Especially, you are still trying to connect, but ngathi kuyala. Bonkosi, can you speak now? Hi, na Bonkosi akavakali. Ngicela imfucuda to speak.
Halasha yangena imfucuda. Angathi ke noma ngithathe nala bengwabhale ngale hashtag ngisale ngikushwambanisa konke uthini madam host.
Na ungashwambakanyisa konke ku 2 minutes. 2 minutes nenako lenginako.
Mina mpostoli nginekhwamla Christian base ngikhulele kuyo and ngiyumChristian. But I've been concerned mainly because the focus Jobushita, I know ukuthi attach le ku constitution ukuthi what can we start mobilizing at this end, because we've realized ukuthi the political movement and struggle cannot neglect the religious forums and organizations. What can we put together to accommodate or to start preparing for a diverse kind of a system? Because what I've realized is that what I believe is that if we focus on one kind of a religion, we are going to produce children who are not going to be globally marketed because they'll only know of one religion, and especially who don't know who they come from or who they are and where they come from, because there's very little touching of imvelaphi eMaswati before the arrival religion, Christianity during kufika kwema mission. That is one. And then asengithathe ke nanga bengwafaka hashtag quickly yeqala beyithi ke what shothi lena say question yesibili but lena sengithatha ngale hashtag what must happen or should be done to those religious leaders who are currently alleged to be misleading the masses in the church under their leaderships by demonizing the struggle and the movements and the ideals, because kufuna about democracy. So yini lesingayenda from this kind of a platform to try and campaign against such a demotivating of wanting or working towards change. The second one is, what is your take, Pastor, on the hardly tabled debate regarding the conflicting stances when it comes to the Siswati cultural customs and religion, Christianity to be specific? One day we are your path. The next day, sesiyafasta siyathandaza. Sisendani kanzi sikuphi? I'm taking it, basing it also on my understanding of some values which I learned under Christianity. But at the same time, I've discovered that in the long run, they've made me lose focus and understanding of imvelaphi yami nebungimbam. I pride myself njengesibuthe. And then the second one, or the second last one, it's just in case kulempendulo kutabengaka addressing. As Liswati lemtsabu lelibuthekile, I would like to know your stance regarding indigenous cultural rituals related annual ceremonies. Do you support them, and are you for them?
Thank you Imfucuda. So mfundisi ngicela ukubana utawuphemvula lawo while I get another speaker to come on.
Ngidawucala ngalele kagcine ngayo. Mina I've got no problem. Mane ubitwa ngamfucuda. I've got no problem with Emma cultural events because Emma cultures are part and parcel of the African heritage generally. Mina la ngidawufike ngibe ne point of departure khona is when uthola ukuthi sekwentiwa ema rituals la fake ekhathi tintfo lesingathi classifier under i-sorcery sithi classify under buthakathi because buthakathi generally uma bendeka ngaso sonke isikhathi bubeka lomunye umuntu at a disadvantage. Kusho ukuthi mina ngisebenzisa buthakathi ukuthi ngikhone kufaka enhluphekweni noma kwengamela nangumfucuda, and that is very wrong. So-ke uma vele kutaba ne-aspect yebuthakathi kulama rituals, then there will be a problem. But nakuyi-ritual nje ukuthi sihlabathe inkomo nje sonke sitodla inyama, kubitwe wonke umuntu adle inyama nalabede inkomo badla inyama. Uyabona kude lonke lesikwendako asi-invoke emandla ebumnyama, kude lesiba-cast ama-spells, kude lesiba-hypnotizako, then with me that's okay. So anginankinga ngema traditional cultures, traditional events and celebrations, but ngiyohlala nginenkinga nebuthakathi. Kwaba ne-aspect nje ebuthakathi vele sekutawuba ne-problem ngoba where I stand ama-values are against buthakathi. I hope ngikuphendulile, maybe not even satisfactory, but at least I've given you an idea of where I stand. And then ubuthi umbuzo ukuthi libandla lingahlangana njani with labantu lothola ukuthi bafuna ukuthi lama traditional values nemvelaphi nje eMaswati in general uthola esiletini atilahleki tiyachubeka lokuthi ti-carryshwe forward even for the next generation. Nabe nguve kahle mina lengikuthandza kungeSwatini ngushido nasenkulumeni tami letingasemuva. 1, silivele elincane. 2, we are one language nation. 3, sibantfu siyayi-embrace le culture yekukholwa nje. Ngisho uSwati lotawuthi wena leli liso traditional. You'll discover ukuthi Sunday uyaya lomntu eRoma, uyaya eSheshi, uyaya eWesel. Now uyaya kumbe kuleli bandla lokutawuthiwa labo sindisiwe. Most eMaswati, I mean, they don't frown or shun anything that has to do to church. General nalokuthi sikhuluma lwimi lunye and we are interlinked, sihlangene. Lona ngumzala wamalume wa-anti walo. Loku should work well for us in terms of saying nakunento lesifuna kuyikhulumisa sisebenzise the religious structures lakhona, le Roma, le Sheshi, le worship center, le Wesel, uyabona sitikhulume khona lento with our leaders, tisuke lapho sithi connecte with our MPs ngoba nalabo MPs sisuke lapho sithi connecte na chief ngoba nabo chief uthola sinabo abanankinga nemthandazo. Before you realize, we are one big voice that is moving towards a change that will address all lama concerns lesingathi embrace noma encompass lonke eliswati on the ground, because lonke eliswati li under MP, lonke eliswati licishe linelisondlo lelithide, lonke eliswati lina chief, uyayibona. So let's utilize these natural systems or structures that are on the ground to push the changes that we're hungering for.
Thank you, Mfundisi. There's a question from our hashtag Justice with Swazis In. It's a question. This person, they've heard that you were summoned by the king to Elutitsini, and they wish to know, when you were summoned, what was it? Was after the your voice note or your voice clip. This person would like to know what then happened in that conversation. I think yes, I think that's the question.
Thank you, host. Angikhorrekile nje. I was never summoned by the King Eltsitzini. I was never summoned. Mine kumbe uma nje ngingachaza ukuthi apart from kuba ngumfundisi, ngitalwe emphakathini waseLunzi mine. Ngingumtukulu wamancibane leLunzi. Uma ulandzela le mvelaphi yami itawugcina ikufikise kuSobhuza wekucala. Ngizama nje ukuchaza lokuthi ngiliswati vele ngalokuphelele. Lokwenteka ngilokuthi ngivamile lokukhuluma tinto vele ngibe vocal ngetinto lothola sithi infringe kulama beliefs ami la backup welBhayibheli. Ngabitwa e-police headquarters I think nga 2003 la bengishito khona ukuthi kulo msimeto lo engcwala angicela ukuthi kube bede lobuthakathi angibufuni lobuthakathi ngoba iBhayibheli liphambene nabo. Ngabitwa ke ukuthi ngilochaza ukuthi lokho bengikusho lana ngakuchaza based from the word of God and I believe ukuthi incazelo yami iyevakala. Nanyalo nangikhiphe le audio lengikhipha I think mhla ka 20 mhla ka 1 mhla ka 2 I can't remember. Nakhona lapho bengibitiwe e-police headquarters kwathiwa angichaze ukuthi letinto leti lebengitikhuluma bengitikhulumelani ungazuthi ngizama ukucathanisa to incite the nation against the head of state and government. Nakhona lapho ngachaza ukuthi bengendani. So nje in short angabitwa inkosi eLitsitsini ngemaphoyisa nje angibita afuna i-clarification afuna nekucela ukuthi maybe lokunye nangikusho ngibokusho kanjani. Anyway, stand sami ngase ndasaba clear asishinji mina nangikhuluma into lesekelwe eBhayibheli futhi lethinta inhlala kahle yabantu lokuyiBhayibheli mandate. I'm not apologetic about it. So I hope sengiclarify.
Thank you so much Nceko. SGA.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu welile ngibingelele kumfundisi. I'll be brief ngoba sengiphelelwe i-bachelor pass sibambe kakhulu umfundisi asavi nje botikolosha. Mfundisi wami asibume nje ukuthi ukhethe eMaswati ukhethe uma neMaswati. Siyabonga kakhulu umfundisi wami. Kodwa ke ngifuna ukusho manje sengiphelelwe i-bachelor ngase ndawo khathika so ngicela ukusho ukuthi ku-organizer the struggle for eMaswati it's almost impossible ukuthi singa-organize sibe ne-structure sibe ne-leadership it's impossible akusebenteki. So vele nje asifuna sikhohlwe ngendaba yama-structures. This thing needs to work from the ground up. Icale from the bottom, then that is the only way it could work. Otherwise masithi sitawufuna ama-leadership sifune ama-face it won't work. It's been like that for so many years. It has failed. We need to mobilize Maswati from the grounds, the youth from the ground. We need to mobilize them. That's the only way we can make an impact.
I think so. Yeah, so okay. Angathi noma khona lofuna ukuphawula yini lapho mfundisi.
Ngiyamuva ngoba every movement must have mobilizers. Every movement must have leaders. Noma utawumobilize youth, noma utakwenda underground, the underground leaders must be well structured and all well organized. Kwatiwe ukuthi si-youth simobilizwa bozibani nabozibani uyabona i-competence yabo inganani ilokhunza i-mandate yabo ithini you know i-vision yabo ithini you know i-mission statement yabo ithini nokuthi bayajive kwendani. Everything needs to have an organized structure regardless ukuthi uyi-approacha from which dimension. Lapho solo ngiya-insista.
Thank you so much Mfundisi for that. There is a question on the floor and it's a question you keep when you Apostle you keep referring to leadership. Uthi ke lona ke ucela kubuta ukuthi the leadership yasesompeni what leadership is the church taking in this situation that we are in, and the march that you have referred to it has been a failure. What has the church done in terms of what has the church done as a win in the current situation that we're in, because siyabona ukuthi amaphathi azame kwenda lokhu yini ke lokuzame kwendiwa lokhu kuzame kwendiwa lisomvo in the situation that we are in.
Ngiyabonga lo mbuzo. Njengoba ngisho ukuthi lento leyendekile where we are now, it's actually acting as a wake-up call. It is telling us that we need to do more and we need to learn to do things in a different way. Uma sibuka the situation that is on the ground, because at the moment Eswatini, there's a lot of tension, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of frustration. People are just looking for solutions, they are looking for change. So the big question is that how do we approach that desired change? And I believe ukuthi where I'm sitting, where I stand, the leaders of the Council of Churches, the leaders of the Conference of Churches, the leaders of the League of Churches already sebabonile ukuthi the days of remaining silent, the days of being actionless are over. And ngiyakholwa lokuthi with such forums and such voices that are sounding from those forums, including other voices, like the voices of the MPs, voices of the media, and voices of those lesebati exilile, because they really want to see things happen collectively. Something I believe is going to be born out of this. Kutawuba ne change. The voice of the church, I believe, will sound louder than before.
Okay, thank you, Mfundisi. Velaphi. After Velaphi, it's ngicela ungene Bonkosi.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity, moderator, and good evening. Nakuwe Mfundisi. Mfundisi, mina ngiyeva ukhala nge-leadership. Ukuthi i-leadership kude. But siyathi ukuthi akhona amabandla lakhona la eSwatini. Lathi sebendako leti ngizaba lesikhuluma ngato. Kune multi-stakeholder forum le create imikhakha lehlukahlukene lonke lelive. Kufaka emasonto, bosomabhizinisi, civil society, insha. Ngilo lelibandla nje nyalo leli-engage eSADC. Ngilo lelibandla lelingcwabe abantu labafile labavakashele emakhaya la verify lakha nale list yebantu labafile, langena lathi ibhedlela lathengela abantu ema-crutches, lamikisa labanye eJozi, lo ngikhuluma nje labanye abantu baseJozi bayasidwa. So ngicabanga ukuthi ku-untrue ukuthi siphe ukuthi kude i-leadership. I think mina ikhona i-leadership. I would respectfully submit ukuthi lesingakusho ukuthi leadership lesinayo idinga ku-enhance. That's the one thing that is very clear. Secondly, ngicabanga ukuthi mina Mfundisi ngeke sivume ukuthi kube ne-opinion lethi eMaswati akakalungeli i-multi-party democracy. I think that's a fallacy and it is untrue. eMaswati, they've been demanding, now ungabuka lama petitions onke la deliver kuleti nkundla leti 51 so far. Those of us who have analyzed those petitions can tell you ukuthi all of them had a demand on multi-party democracy. It means ukuthi eMaswati are ready for it. It means ukuthi eMaswati are not living in an island. They are interconnected to the global world. They understand what is happening around them. So politically, Swazis are ready. The only encumbrance, the only challenge that we are facing in this country is an obstinate monarchy that refuses to modernize. And one would respectfully submit that the biggest problem that we are facing has now become really the person and office of the king as an individual, because he has decimated all the structures of accountability around him, such that he is doing as he pleases. He is not listening to anyone. Nobody is listening to them. And others, no one is listening to them. So we have a big crisis in this country that we must face. And I think we really need to be serious in understanding in a nuanced way lama challenges that we face as a country. And I would like to challenge you, Mfundisi, ukuthi vele mobilize the other church leaders, including the Council of Swaziland Churches, the conference and others, mobilize them to join the multi-stakeholder forum and support the political parties assembly so that we can have that big voice that you are talking about. Mfundisi, lastly, nganal point lekusebenzisa lama structures abo MP. It is a valid point, but we must also understand ukuthi le constitution lesinayo does not have a pathway to reform, because the constitution lesinayo ya entrencha 1973 decree as was promulgated at the time. So that constitution doesn't have a pathway to give Swazis the change that they demand, which is why we need a political solution to the crisis that this nation is facing. Ngiyabonga moderator, ngiyabonga nakuwe Mfundisi.
Thank you so much. Well articulated. Thank you.
Khona lo ufisa ukuphawula lapho Mfundisi owama nje ngivumele lo munye akhulume.
Vumela lo mnyakhulume uchaze nje kahle.
Okay.
Amana kulungi nabanyalo babili basejele nalolo mnyuzula lathi gangeni la singathi khona ukuthi uphile impilo yakhe isafe kanganani. Kwesibili ke Mfundisi wami nginana ukhulumile ngekuthi nami futhi bengikanye nemvu wonke ukuthi nangabe bukhosi bethu bungaba i-constitutional monarchy bebungasebenta ukuthi uhulumende abaseceleni. Mina bengicabanga naloko ukuthi kungaba ngcono lokho ukuthi mangabe sinema complaints akashaya enhloko yena nje utaba yilokhuzanyana lapha abe trophy lapha bukhosi butaba i-trophy nasikhuluma tindoda ishaye ku prime minister lesimchuzile sikhona ukukhuluma ngendlela lesifanele, but nyalo lengubukako lo muntu uzogcengadi. How do we associate him lesive lesihlahlekile ngehlobo dala njengalo uchazile babe ukuthi sine sibanye ngilapha nje nalo ngingabhadi ukuthi babo bandla abanye labafile ngento kakube kunemntwana esihlobo sami lapho. Then how do we bring him back now to the ukuthi aphile nathi kulesimo lesesentekile? Ngiyabonga.
Mfundisi.
Ngicale nje kuleli phuzu lagcine ngalo, ngiyabonga moderator. Leli phuzu lagcine ngalo ukuthi sesenda njani ngoba phela sesibuka ukuthi lo mholi lesinaye tandla takhe tigcwele ingadi. Kude lokwendlula i-dialogue, kude lokwendlula i-reconciliation, kude lokwendlula i-ownership of error, kude lokwendlula i-responsibility, embracing ukuthi kusukela manje kuyembili lokhu konakele, but sengivile ukuthi tikhalo tiyini ene letikhalo ngidati addressa. Nginalokukholelwa maybe labanye ngeke bavume ukuthi maybe nalokuthi sive ukuthi imbube ibita umthandazo, ngiyakholwa lokuthi noma sakaboni lokuthiteni lokuphathekako uvile wenkosi, uvile uhulumende. And I believe ukuthi going forward start ibona tinyathelo letawukhomba lokuthi uvakele lo msindo logcine uchitha nengadi. Angikholelwa ukuthi kungaba business as usual, attitude as usual, behavior as usual going forward. I don't believe, because that would be very, very highly inhuman. So mina ngicela nje ukuthi simane sibe naloku kubeketela kwehlisa nje maphapho sesibuke lokuthi kubhekwaphi, ngoba lokunye lengikuvile ngilokuthi asilonduna ngikulo fika utawunika i-priority kuvusa lo mnotho, anike i-priority ku-create imisebenzi, anike i-priority kuthi emaswati onke athole imfundo. Wadibala leti nzokuthi utati nike i-priority, laphuma leli gama la-priority. So noma singeke sifike overnight la siphokophele kufika khona ultimately, but ngibelieve ukuthi sitawuqala kuqathuda towards the right direction. And that is my take kulokukhulunywa the last speaker. Hello.
Ngasine bese ngimutile, my apologies. So I am trying
Ngiyabona.
to
Sengethuke.
I'm trying I'm trying to make some of you guys speakers laba put my questions, but some people have been loading for the longest time. For example, Bravo K, I've accepted you to be a speaker, but solo awukhoni kuluma. So next, as ngicela nangabe ngu-acceptile and you're still not connecting, please leave the space and Twitter and come back again and request. But for now, can we please have Sandile Magaku 19 and We Can't Breathe, Bennett Banel. Tawuqala Sandile bese kuta Bennett Banel.
Ngiyabonga madam ukuthi ngigcine ngithole lethu. Into engidawuqala nje ukucela inxa ku-Pastor Justice ukuthi nje aphumele ebaleni amele le maswati kule simo lesi. Ngiyathi ukuthi akusiko lula, siyathi si-aware ukuthi nalaba bafundisi labanye lababinzile akusiko ukuthi babinze ngekuthi ababoni lokwenzakalani, but bakunaku lesikuko ngifuna ukuvoice out now lokwesaba lokwesatshiso. Ngiyeva nje umfundisi ukhuluma ngekuthi ukuthi sihambe ngalama petitions, sihambe siye tinkundleni. Kwakona lama MPs ngcekule leso sithi siwathembile nanawo ayesaba njengathi. So ubona-ke angisho ukuthi sesiyasatshiswa, siyabulawa, uyabona. Noma ubuka emaswati ngendlela lesikhuliseke ngayo, kubona nje umuntu adutshulwa ngesibhamu abulawa yinto lengazange ziyendeke. Lokunye kule ngicela ukubamba nje ngilovulela labanye nakulocesa khulunywa ngimake ezikode la yenzaba ukuthi kufuna kubuye phansi mhlambe kube khulunyiswana nenkosi yethu. Sekulukhulu man, mina nje ngikhule mina for the last 28 years inkosi ngikhule vele ngiyithanda, but from now angisayithandi. Angadlo ukuthi inhlitiyo yami ingacoleleka kanjani ukuthi ngibuye mhlambe nami ngimthande njengakucala. Angisambuki njengenkosi yami, mhlambe kulabanye bangaba inkosi yabo, ngilokole ngabo.
Thank you. Mfundisi ukhona lo ofisa ukuphawula lapha.
Ngicela nje kulungisa naliphuzu nale ukuthi lama MP lama MPs ane parliamentary sort of immunity and protection. I think wakusho na AG, wakusho na Ndvunankhulu. Kude labangeliwa bona la ukuthi uthole ukuthi uboshelwa ukuthi eParliament uthide, kungamane kube ngema behind the scenes intimidations. Le mine for the longest of time kanenge intimidate wakuthiwa kutawudilwa nami, but angayekeli kuphusha le advocacy ngoba MPs ane advocacy bangenele lapha a specified mission ukuthi bayoba i-voice of the masses laba elector. So bona ngi-understand ukuthi besaba ini nje, uyabona, ngoba na ungabuka nalaba lababoshiwe abakaboshelwa, na uvalethe inkulumo abakaboshelwa ukuthi bathi 10 eParliament noma baphushane eParliament, kusolwa ungazuthi ba-incite le violence. Ngeva Ndvunankhulu athi into labayende outside of Parliament. Lokhu-ke kungenda ngibone ukuthi now lakhathi eParliament you can really talk and push as much as you want, as long as you're into your mandate. Lenza ukuthi nabayesaba abaphume kulokwesaba ngoba nabu yesaba lani-ke kuyofaka ligama lakho ukuthi ucela ukuvotela eParliament. No. Nabe besho seParliament.
Thank you, Mfundisi. Mzwelisto, Mzweli Benza.
Ngiyabonga losihlalweni. Ngivusele nempostoli ebusuku. Impostoli mina I just have 3 points noma ke ngathi leminye kutaba ngumbuto lokunye but kubeke i-take home probably. Kwekucala nje ukuthi how were you received by your peers after you publicly denounced the immoral behavior of our leaders towards the citizens of the country? Bakuthatha kanjani balingani bakho ikakhulu le ushumayela nabo noma ke lo la kuJesu na? 2, according to myself personally, the less said about the League of Churches and the Council of Churches, the better when it comes to the I mean, we have lots of sensitive matters, including women abuse, whatsoever. Not even a single press statement from these institutions to denounce, hey, maphoyisa asekume lo. Nothing. Which now in Fundis, you are part of them as a member. Nendani le kuleti inhlangano tenu kanzi. The third and last, you talked of national prayer. Hey, angati Mfundisi, we have had plenty of national prayers as a country. Kude nakunye lokwakwalunga nge-national prayer. Lokukabi futhi le national prayer icelwa ngilo hulumende lohlukubeta labantu. Icelwa ngilo Satan. Angathi ukuthi ngiphi le national prayer ke lothi nyalo wena hawo uvele wamba ngezitha ngika acele national prayer. Noma ke uvile hulumende ngika acele national prayer. Kuthi national prayer le kacelwa nguhulumende le yawuphi. I-national prayer iyawucelwa sive semaswati. Ngicela kugcina lapho kwanya.
Mfundisi.
Thank you so much. Ekuqaleni nje ubutile ukuthi mana ngiyaxolisa angalivala igama lakhe moderator. Ubute ukuthi balingani bami bemukela kanjani nabevamene ngikhala ngivoice kuhlupheka kwami ngalesimo lesenteka ngoba ngavoice kabili ngaqale ngavoice ngale nhlupheko emaswati angasebenzi kunje ngaphindza ngavoice nangalendzaba yokuthi badutshulwe ngaze nje ngakhipha statement lesesizinza kakhulu sayedla kusilaba badubulile nabo batawudutshulwa ngiko lokwagcina kwangenda ngasamonwa ngabidwa. Bafundisi typically ngoba lokusenta sibe limited ngiloku njengami njenga Conference of Churches ngina president wami ngibe na vice president bese kuba neboard sekuba nathi ke lesingema member ale conference and le constitution ithi ngeke mina ngikhulumele i-Conference of Churches in my personal capacity. Lokungumuvo wami kumele ngikufake ebhodini bese kuthathwa i-leadership. Liphimbo lethu kumele kube liphimbo lalo president wethu kuphela. So ke nawuva ukuthi ithulile le leadership yethu siyi-conference laba lethu lesaba elector vele uchwisha wedwa lapha sumangale ukuthi kutawuthiwani ngoba laba lokumele singabakhuluma noma bayasibita ukuthi sitokhuluma abakhulumi at that particular time. So mina nje ngalokho bese ngiyaphahluka ngiyadikhulumela ngavele ngaba specific ukuthi ngidikhulumela in my specific capacity. It was for the same reason because bengafuni implicate abantu who are not ready to be implicated in the matter. So kunaleyo nkinga nje. So lokwendeka labanye they frowned at me, labanye bang-encourage abang-support. Shothi there were two divisions. Labo lababuka ungathi uthi ngigiletika nalabo lababuka ukuthi it was necessary for me to say something ngende kona ukuthi at least ngisho something leseyicishe yaba liphimbo lelisondo collectively. So ilapho nje indzaba ukuthi if the leaders are not ready to take action to do something, thina labangema-members lapha phasi, there's very little we can do. And then number two, ubute ukuthi sendani in terms of denouncing and rebuking lokhu lotawuthola ukuthi akuhambi kahle, sibinzeleni. Impendulo yaloko ikule mpendulo ya number one ukuthi asikabinzi thina sibafundisi as individuals, sibuke etulu kubaholi bethu. If baholi bethu babinzile nathi naturally sitawubinza. And njengoba ngishito ukuthi lapha kunalo moya wokwesaba, and uyamangala ukuthi besabani laba ngema-leaders of the League of Churches, leaders of the Council of Churches and Conference of Churches, ngoba phela angikhumbuli ukuthi baku-payroll, angikhumbuli nje lokuthi bona baku-payroll yahulumende, ngoba eSwatini baye bavame ukukubamba ngalokuthi kumbe udlala pletini lahulumende. So na ungaholi khona, what have you got to lose really if you've got to speak on behalf of the masses lo aholako? So inkinga nje lapho kunalokwesaba nalokubinza lokungachazeki ukuthi kwani, njengoba usho nje ukuthi konakala into letinengi bo-gender based violence nayindzaba bothabane and many other incidences that have happened, and lathinza emasondo direct because is either lo wendiwe something sihlobo takhe noma hlobo takhe tisesondweni side, but the church decides to turn a blind eye. I mean, that's really a problem that needs to be solved as a matter of urgency. Kwesithathu ngile national prayer. National prayer, well, nama was surprised ngoba ngibone ephepheni kutele nguvile from my mother body ukuthi isuke njani, isungulwe ngibani, kwente njani. Nami sengitshela nje sinda-over going forward ukuthi nangabe ingwenyama libitele prayer ifuna kuthandazelwe ini, kwente njani. Nami nje ngisetawuthola ama-facts lamaningi kuleli viki ukuthi kuthandaza bobani, bathandazela kuphi, bathandazela ini, kwente njani. Ngoba ngemthetho vele njengoba ushito bekumele iqhamuke from the church side, kube kuthiwa the three mother bodies aconvene nengwenyama acela ukuthi lamabandla yobamba umthandazo. So ngileyo confusion nje Swatini lokuthi lama-office avama kuconfusewa, uyabona, le-office lemprofethi, le-office lempristi, uthola ukuthi alinikwa sigaba salo, ngoba eBhayibhelini bapristi ngabo leyo bagayida inkosi, nebaprofethi bagayida emakhosi, but lapha ungazuthi sethi iguqukile le-K. Anyway, asithembe ukuthi kutawulunga going forward. I hope I've answered you. Sorry for being long in addressing your questions. Thank you.
Kutawulandzela Mzwelisto alandzelwe nguFred.
Siqedza nini madam?
Hayi mfundisi, naso ufuna ukukhululeka ungasatisa, but bengishido ukuthi okay, mina bengicela ukuthi sitawuba khona kanye nawe up until 10.
Oh,
As per
okay.
our conversation yesterday.
Manje la
Yes,
ngikhona khona
mfundisi.
kune-curfew, la ngikhona khona kune-curfew. I need to ensure ukuthi before the curfew kicks in, I must move to my residence because I'm actually in my office. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So ungafuna ukukhululeka ngabani mfundisi?
Hey, ngicabanga ukuthi vele in the next say 10 minutes, 9:30. Yeah, at the latest 20 to 10.
As fellow comrades and compatriots, I've got quite a few points, but I'll try to be brief. 2 minutes is more than enough. Kuqala nje ngicela ukubonga umfundisi wethu. Thank you for availing yourself and speaking up for the people that cannot speak for themselves. Thank you. Otherwise, you're raising valid points, and the rest of the comrades here are raising valid points in terms of being organized. It's good difficult to enter anything if we are not organized. Particularly over organized, let's not downplay what the current regime has done in terms of banning of political parties, which in essence disorganizes people. People cannot come together and discuss political ideas. That we cannot take lightly. That very same thing leads to or has brewed a culture yokuthi bamfuna bakhuluma about kungaphatheki kahle kwabo kuthiwe bamavukela mbuso. if you affiliate to a particular structure or political party,
True.
ubitwa ngelivukela mbuso. So let's
True,
remember
true,
that.
true.
And then Umfundisi has also kept on mentioning ukuthi akade ukuthi bantu besabana. Lokho ngicabanga ukuthi kuliqiniso. Nangabe ukukhulela eSwatini, uyayazi situation eSwatini. It's fear of victimization. All the intimidation tactics that are used by the current regime, that's what forces people not to speak up. So asingendi ngathi nje lo. Which leads me to my next point. The intimidation tactics and victimization wouldn't work if we all speak up. The state doesn't have the capacity to lock us up all because we're speaking up. So let's all speak up. I'll move on to my next point, which talks to kubambisana and being organized. I actually acknowledge the work that has been done by Mfundisi Wefu, but there's still more that can be done. I actually challenge you, Mfundisi Wamguti. Pick up your phone today, call your colleagues, call your congregates, ask them to speak up. That voice note was a good step in the right direction, but we can't stop there. We need to continuously fight and push our agenda of change. On the issue of constitutional monarchy or not, when we started, or when the MPs started, because some of us started talking about this long before this. When the MPs started, I was with them with the call. They would say, let's go with the constitutional monarchy. But let's also remember now the point that we at, that the current regime has issued orders to kill our brothers and sisters. So we cannot take that lightly. My tune has since changed. We cannot, even if we go for a constitutional monarchy, it can't be the same person that has issued orders to kill our brothers and sisters. So even as Swatini kakhulu, Snabo Puti, Snabo Sisi, we've got cousins, we've got friends that are in the very same army that tell us, "Kusaqala sabatubule nyaweni, sagcine sesihlabe enyameni straight, sibabulala." So vele skwatile, vele akusimfo lencane lena. I just want to comment on one point that you made, Mfundisi wami, wathi naturally utawubinza if your leaders are quiet. I think we can certainly do better than that. You are a leader in your own right. We cannot just say if our leaders are quiet, we're going to be quiet. I'm a leader in my own right. I don't even lead any particular political structure, but I'm a leader in my own right, and I'll speak for the people. And lastly, Mfundisi wami, on a lighter note, I must say you don't sound the same. Please repeat some of the things both the Shokle voice note. For a lack of a better word, you sound like they got to you, but I may be wrong. Please speak up. We need more people like you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ngingakhuluma moderator.
Yes, Mfundisi.
Quick njengoba vele isikhathi is not on our side. Thank you so much to the last speaker. Kokucala nje ukhulume ngendaba yokuthi mina ngingashaya ungathi eSwatini angadi, eSwatini vele kuyesatshwa. Now seSwatini vele nje awukhona ikhuluma yesaba. That is wrong. It must change. Mina ngicabanga ukuthi abantu lotawuthola ukuthi vele kumele besabe ukuthi vele uphila lesipatshini losikhuluma. Ngoba nabe sho ukuthi uphila lesipatshini lesicontrolwa la kumele ukuthi ufake imivo yakho, insolo yakho, kumbe bangasebenzisa leyo nto leyo uthole ukuthi sebakusanction. Mina nje into le ngi-exclude kuto vele nje nginyatheleke kuto ngibone kunebantu lotawuthola ukuthi bayesaba ngisho ukusonzela abantu o-associate nelisondo lami ngoba besaba lokuthi batabe sebayanyathela. But ngicabanga ukuthi mina more dangerous and more catastrophic ukuthi ube position to act ungede wa actor le damage iba inkulu kakhulu when people who are in a position to act or to speak but decide to be silent. So ngicela nje kusho ukuthi lokho esilungelo lokhuluma illegitimate ngoba kunemehluko ukuthi ukhuluma kuvukela umbuso noma ukhuluma ukuthi kumane ku-addresswe ema-plights tidinge kodwa abantu that are on the ground. Mina ngidefined ngiya-adi ukuthi ngikhulumeli ukuthi ngifuna kumbe uketula umbuso no mina ngikhulumela ukuthi itindo atendwe ngale ndlela ukuthi impilo yeMaswati ishintshe ibe right ngoba le possibility lokho ikhona. Sinawo lo mnotho sinako konke lokusivumela ukuthi impilo now uthinta indzaba ye-intimidation wathinta indzaba yokuthi abantu bagcina sebadutshulwa. Leyo iyahlupa because mina ngibelieve ukuthi nakhona kubhenishwe emaphakathi. Angikholwa ukuthi uma uhamba applyela ukuthi ucela kuba ne-peaceful meeting la ndawo discussa khona into ukuthi sifuna kube ne-Eswatini and le structure senisicacile sadiwa ukuthi nangu president, nangu deputy president, nangu secretary, sifuna nje kubamba umhlangano lula njenganaba nje labacela kuyofaka ema-petition ephalamende wabanika regional power kahoho bahamba peaceful. Eswatini kuyakhulumeka sengisho ukuthi nanifuna nje kuhlangana niplane lokuye kwendeke kuba nemaphoyisa nje atolala ukuthi abalwangi abantu bangakhuluma ngeke nje nidutshulwe lesibe nibambe peaceful march. Lokhu kuhluphile ngalokuthi kwaqala kwaba kuyodeliver ama-petition. Number 2 sekubonakala kushiswa ama-properties, imoto, ama-truck, kushiswa ama-building. Number 3 sekuyaluthwa yonke lento yasenje yanyofeka ayisayisebuyela kule leadership lengikhale ngayo ukuthi kube lama-mobilizers of what actually happened from the petitions aba specific ukuthi maja asikwendi lokhu sistikisha kunaku nothing criminal, maybe so much with leadership issue lebesinika ke lo mcinzeteli noma lo holako losemandleni lithuba lethi manje ke so wenta konke la ngakwenda ngoba uyayibona lento seyifake ekhathi elements of criminality. So we need to address those things going forward ngoba kushiswa kuma buildings tikolwa tibhedlela, it's no longer serving the purpose that we want. And then sewuthi ke mina uyabona ungazuthi angisakhulumi ngandlela ebengikhuluma ngayo nami benginika abalingani bami ukuthi nabo sebavakale ngoba phela sengibaphendlela indlela and bengisolo ngisho lokuthi cha ngibhizi nje ngiyakhuluma nale organization yami ukuthi asikhulumeni nabe kunenkinga kuthani niconze ukuthi sitawukhuluma njani baholi bethu sibiteni sitobonisana ngoba we've got to do something, we can't be quiet kule simo lesikhona. So I believe ukuthi going forward khona lesitawukubona kwenteka ngoba sola sikabinzi nami ngibinziswe nje ukuthi ngingabonakala ungathi sengiyaphapha noma sengidenda ngcono ngedwana ngani phela kunebenda nabo basically ngoko abusho ukuthi kube khona la sengicastrate khona myself. I'm ready to continue speaking. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mfundisi. How many more questions can you take now?
Three.
Okay. So ngiyacela the people labatawukhuluma nyalo nisho one question please. Just one.
Yeah,
so that
please.
We can have lo munye lotawukhona kubuta. Freddy, one question. One. Kabasa, one question please. Freddy, start.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu lelithuba lo sipho lona. Ngibonge nemfundisi ukuthi akhona ukusijoyina. Amfundisi umbuto wami nje munye vele bengivele ngilungise munye la ngifuna ukubuta nje ngomfishane. Ngifuna ukubuta ukuthi ngikubuka kwakho mfundisi, do you think the king will want to go down without a fight, looking at the benefit that he has and the fact that he said that everything that is in the country belongs to him? Makakhuluma nje esibayeni. Do you think vele he'll want to just give in so easily, looking at ama benefits la nawo nalabantwana babo, bantwana bakhe la nawo? Ngiloko kuphela, ngiyabonga.
Lo ngawuphendula nje lula umlando na ungabuka nje umlando. Inkosi King Charles waseNgilandi wala kusayina i-Bill of Rights lebeyenta ukuthi abantu baseNgilandi babe nemalungelo nje la kahle, wala bagcina bamcharge nge-treason, bamjuba literal, bayijuba intsambo. Incumbi yemakhosi vele uthola ukuthi lawa lake abakhona, angikhulumi ngale yakithi but ndawukhuluma ngemlando lo tabe susinika sithombe. Akukabi lula ukuthi lo bukhosi no whether uvuma kuba i-constitutional monarch noma kuba give up altogether so that the country becomes a republic. Bonke bakhishwe sebabulawa kubo Europe. Mshweshwe la eLesotho wagcina baleka aya ku exile vele kunale nkinga yokuthi asikababoni labantu labangemakhosi bayisha. Ngakho mina bengicabanga ukuthi lokufaka le pressure lengcono should be the best approach going forward. Ukuthi vele sibe outright ukuthi yena ngcono vele simcela ukuthi aburelinquishe lo bukhosi. I doubt ukuthi kungaba lula kanjalo. Speaker losanza kucetha.
Thank you, Mfundisi. Kabasa, one question, please.
Okay, angibonga lelithuba. Asibonga baba Mfundisi kuba kanye nathi. Kwami nje kutaba
Usakhonekitha Kabasa.
Aw.
Also connected.
Ngiyakhuluma.
Yes.
Yeah, sesiyabona.
Oh, okay, kwami kutaba kufishane nje. Lana kuko konke lengiyaye ngikuve kulama space leswajoyinako. Inkinga ngilolo isho ukuthi vele sibaningi kude umholi lo yedwa. Sinetinhlangano lana bongwane liberation bophudemo boswalokho bo EFF kwami ukuthi ungakhona yini wena kumbe ku-offerisha ukuthi umane ubakhulumise kumbe kube ne group play 1 letawukhona uhola le struggle cause nyalo ngiloyo udonsela lelo udonsela lebo inhlava basho kwabo lokunaloku basho kwabo uyabo ngize ngithi wena ungakhona yini is because kuko konke nabo ANC nayicala ilisondvo beliphakathi ekhathi kubahlanganisa ukuthi kube ne organization le1 ngoba vele kutawuphumelela singaba munye. Angibonga.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu la speaker. Mina Kabasa mina ngingathi offerisha ngovele ngiconsent lo uma ngibona ukuthi kude le structure lesicacile because kude lokutawu achieveka as long as kunje. Ngoba kufuna ukuthi bakhone lokuthi bati organize bayispele out i-mission yabo basho lokuthi bafuna kwendekene. Mina I would really help uma nginganikwa leyo chance ukuthi ngoba uma kuchubeka kanje nawubuka labantu labadutshulwe bafa uyabona utatibuta ukuthi badutshulwe bafa bakuliphi ilicembu like bebamobilizwe nguliphi ilicembu ngubani longa onapha kule nhlangano letikhona kuthi okay sifelwe bantu bebabe EFF bebabe Pudemo bebabe Ngwane bebabobani uyabona ngivile nje lesinye speaker sisho lapha kugcine sekusukuma bona bamixela abanye esibhedlela labanye bakhipha imali sibangcwatshwe nami nje ngacelwa ngayifaka imali ukuthi kuyongcwatshwa labangcwatshwako but babobani ba-under bobani. It's a big concern. It worries me a lot. Thank you.
And then the last question will come from Mugabo Castro. Just one question, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Babe Justice Gubanat, to siphe isikhathi sakho. Siyade ukuthi umuntu lo busy. My question and comment is on the issue of leadership, ukuthi babobani. And ngifuna ku pointer, maybe it's more like a suggestion, ukuthi since we have leaders like you, Babe Dlamini, in this space, in what is happening, we expect you to show up as a leader outside of your head of being a man of God. You are a leader in the country, and the time that we're in now, it's a time we've never been in before. And I would suggest, would say, leaders like you and other leaders like Labage, Labakone, Swatini, who are for this idea of change, need to come together. For instance, Babeka Uzela need to be in a space at some points now where other MPs, Bo Babemieni, civil service, kungabi info yema party or yema organizations, because loko kulula kukumisa naloko nje political parties abhende Eswatini. If we get that umbrella of leadership of people who are in society on the ground, that changes the call. We show ukuthi lena ikhole emaswati akusikhole emaphathi, akusikho demo ukuthi demo kuthiwa ingahle bayidemonize as an entity igcine ingakatholi much traction le call. Nangabe kusukuma men and women on the ground like you, Sima, behind the same banner, and you are not standing there as a man of God, you are standing there as a leader of Eswatini who is also concerned about the current socio-economic problems that we are facing. I think that is the leadership that can be able to, a big match. We know we are called by leaders, people less direct, because this is not a political party issue, it's a Swazi issue.
Yes. No, thank you so much, Speaker. Ushaya yona mbamba. Buka nalento ukuthi kuthiwe kuyamachwa. I-march should actually be the last thing. Into ecala efuna yenteke ngilokuthi nje sibe, collective, in purpose, collective in mission. Lokuthi okay, nathi le nto lesifuna addresswe, sibuthane singemabandla, kubuye bo MP laba khona kuleto ndzawo lesibuthene kuto nabo babe sekhathi si engage ngisho na maybe nabo chief baleyo ndzawo tindvuna ene bafundisi bonke bazalwane and sithi voice letinto, and then we become one voice leleyo khuluma ukuthi okay sicela ukukhuluma nako ngoba ngiyabelieve mina ukuthi le room for dialogue is still there. The room yokuthi sivoice kuvoiceke lama concerns emaswati on the ground is still there, and I believe ukuthi njengoba usho nje uma nami ngathi ngizabalingani bami sizame ukuthi sibe liphimbo leli organized kunenge lesingakho achieve. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fundisi, for being with us today. Unfortunately, we have to let the apostle go, guys, because Gune Kefi lapo akona and he still has to drive home. So thank you so much, Mfundisi. And also in the space today, we have Honorable Mr. Mawik Kumalo, whom we're going to host tomorrow at 8 p.m. So establisine mhlonishwa Mawiki Kumalo, and we hope to see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much, Apostle. We hope you have a safe journey.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you for all the questions asked, and let us fight on. Let us not lose hope. Let us not lose the energy. There's light at the end of the tunnel. This is for a good cause, the wellness of the people of Eswatini. Thank you so much. God bless you all. And I'll try to join you tomorrow.
Amen. Guys, thank you so much for coming into the space. Siyethemba sitawubonana kusasa.
Good day, labafuna kusho emakhomento
any comments accepted nang imfucuda and those that would.
Ngicela ukukhuluma nje kancane. Ngiyabona lana bekunalesinye space soswebo stakhe or something. don't you guys talk ukuthi kube ne-space lesi-one sokhona ku-attenda don't get base because you will find ukuthi we're missing out on the other stuff.
We did send an apology to Bostaki, and at the beginning of the space, we did apologize for that. Unfortunately, Umfundisi only gave us this time, and we've been looking for him for a very long time. And we truly, truly apologize to everyone, not just Bostaki and Linga Shoni and the Swazi Life Matter at large. We also apologize to you guys for the inconvenience. But unfortunately, this was the only time we had Zamile Pusha next Sunday or during the week, and we couldn't get any other time except for this time. We truly, truly apologize. My confirmation here was quite very late, so we truly apologize for this.
Okay, kuyavakala, siyabonga.
Manga.
Ngiyavakala. I've got this suggestion. I was privileged to be in that other space, and I've asked ukuthi ngathi ngaba khona umvulo ngathi uthathe ama-minishana noma under the hashtag bese summarize the most important points. Now, what is coming apparent is that we are being exposed to different, should I say, fields or theories or what's this word? Schools of thought when it comes to the movement. And I feel ngati we could have some tapu or a collection of all these ideas because so far every speaker which comes up here, they bring about valid points, and we need to at some point compare and pick the ones which are going to speak to all these different vacations. The one speaker the other week pro political parties, and then the other one was giving us advice on just how to maneuver the spaces, especially on that is Van Dam. And then the today Umfundisi uqhamuke nalenye, which is an existing movement and we cannot ignore it. And what I liked about his is that it's informed well, accommodating the predominant Christianity values which we are dealing with as a Maswati. So basically all these speakers who are invited here bring about valid points, and they are all representing realistic groups which need to find a forum coming together. Now, in a way, leader. So I'm just thinking, can we find or figure out a way? I don't know who's going to be responsible for this. Could this collect an idea from all these talks, and then maybe a talk or going to a conference? Why going to a Joseph at some point? Diaspora all these parties just to come and speak in one voice, moving on forward.
Thank you, Infikuda. What you're saying is very, very valid. Kango, I think last week had hosted something like that. But
okay.
I'm not sure ukuthi emaphathi onke aphumelela or all those involved baphumelela bonke yini. But we're yet to hear from Kango ukuthi kwahamba njani ngalapho. But yeah, and the part of archiving everything, we're working on it. On it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.